Hello again, everybody. I'm back, and this week we are going to talk about basic photo corrections in Photoshop. That's chapter 2 in the Photoshop Classroom in a Book 2024. So I've already opened my Photoshop, and I'm now going to open the sample file for this lesson. I'm going to choose Open and O2 Start. And when we first open an image to work on, we kind of want to evaluate it some to think about what we're going to have to do with it. In this case, we're going to have to color correct it, do some restoration of the sort of fold there, brighten it up and crop and straighten it. First, we can see the ruler I have turned on up here and on the side. This will tell me, in my case, where I am on the image, and I can see that here in my info panel. As I drag this guide onto the image, you can see its coordinates reflected in the ruler above and to the left. To turn your ruler on and off, you can use Command R or View Rulers. To change the unit on your rulers, you could go to Photoshop, Settings, Units and Rulers. There you could change units that your ruler reflects to inches, for example, and you see that change reflected there. So I'll click OK and we'll go on. The first thing that we are going to do with this image is straighten and crop it. In the Tools panel, choose the Crop tool. And we can see our tool options up here across the top of the screen where we can choose how we crop the image. Let's choose width times height times resolution. And we want it to be 7 inches by 7 inches at 300 pixels per inch. And then we'll click the Straighten tool here in the tool options. And then we click and drag across to show Photoshop what is level, what a straight line is. And there we are. Now we can take our crop handles and drag those in to remove the white border of this photograph. I missed a little bit at the edge there, so what I'm going to do is choose the Marquee tool, and my ratio is going to be 1:1. If you remember, we made it 7 inches by 7 inches. And so as I drag down, the ratio is going to match, and I'll say Image Crop. There. We've trimmed out all of the white edge. Now, because I trimmed it after resizing it, I'm going to go back into image size and change the unit here to pixels. And you can see that because I trimmed it a little bit, it's now 6.973, not quite 7 inches. So let's just make that 7 inches again. There we are. Everything is back to 7 by 7, cropped and straightened. Now we're going to fix the color cast on the image. It has kind of, that old-timey faded yellowing picture look. Let's come over here under the single adjustments options and choose curves to begin correcting that color cast. Here in the curves properties panel, we have these sampling droppers. And what we can do is click this white sample dropper and choose a color in the image that will be white, and then all of the other colors will be recalculated around that color. So I'm going to hit Command plus to zoom in here a little bit and take a little white out of the shoulders of this girl's dress. Ah, that looks much better. We can see it before, after. Right, so now the image has a white. Now that we've fixed the color, let's look at the tonal range of the image, and we'll adjust that using the levels adjustment layer. You can see in both of these tools we have what's called a histogram here, and what that's showing us is what is black in the image on the left side here, and then what is white in the image on the right side. In the middle here is the middle of those 2 points, perfect gray. We can adjust the tonal level of what is black and what is white in an image with this levels tool. And what we can do with levels is we can actually drag in, say, to make it, give it a little more richness to its levels from black to white. And so I've dragged that into about 14, 15 here. A good rule of thumb is I always kind of drag it into where the curve starts. If you could see here, we could see that histogram starts at about that point, right? And we could see what it's doing here, changing the level beyond which everything is black. It's shortening the number of values between black and white in this image. So yeah, let's drag it up to about 15. Looks great. And maybe we change our midpoint. Oh, how about that? Much better. You can also choose auto here and just see what Photoshop comes up with, which is 21 and 0.95. So we'll go back to our 15 and 0.9. Okay, I think both of them look pretty nice. So we'll close this up and I'll show you what this looked like before. Before, after. We've set a white point in this image and we have adjusted the black point and the middle gray point to bring back sort of the color and richness into this image. Having done that, now let's flatten this image so we can carry on and make some more changes. I'm going to come over into the layers window and right click and choose flatten image. There we go. To do that, you can also come up here to layer and roll down to flatten image. Now let's move on to trying to fix this crease here. I'm going to hit Command plus to zoom in a little more and then hold down my space bar to get the hand tool and kind of come in here to where I can see it. Oh, that's a little too close. There we go. Now I can see from the top of the image all the way down to this bridge here. To begin fixing this crease in the picture, I'm going to come over here and click on the Remove tool in the Tools panel. I'm going to come up here into the Options window and change its size to about 25 pixels. Hardness is 0, so we don't leave an edge on any of our strokes. And we can click Return. Now, with the Remove tool selected, I'm going to kind of make my way down this edge here. And we can see how it's fixing it as we move along. I make a habit to do a lot of small strokes because they're less likely to be noticeable than one, sort of long straight stroke like that. So we just kind of make our way down here, and magically Photoshop has helped us to remove that crease down to the bridge. Let me show you what it looked like before. There to there. So we'll carry on and remove the rest of this crease. There we go. I'm going to make this brush a little bigger by clicking my right bracket key 3 times. Did you see what happened there? As I stroked down, it removed this line in the brick. So what I'm going to try to do with the crease now, I'll zoom in even more and correct one section at a time. So I'm not going to go over the crease. And you can kind of see the brush strokes here, right? All right. Go on down to the street. Here are a bunch of little lines here that we want to make sure all stay connected. So I'm going to do little section by section fixes. There we go. And I'm going to press Command 0 and we can see that the crease, I needed to fix some more. Here we go. That'll do. Command 0. There we are. No crease. We've gone from here to here. Now I'm going to zoom in and use that Remove tool to take out some of this little damage here, the scratch. Okay, now let's click Command 0 again to come back into the image and use the remove tool to remove this boy right here. I'm going to click Control and change this brush size to about 100. Hardness again is 0. So press return, and I will come over here and I'm just going to drag it over him, and there he goes out of the picture. I'll use the remove tool again to kind of fix some of these imperfections. This looks a little repetitive here. You can experiment with that remove tool, for different effects, or see what kind of other results it might give you if you're not satisfied with it the first time. Now let's click on our history button and we'll go back to the boy. You'll see that I have a snapshot 1 here. I took this snapshot in one of the earlier states of the image where the boy is, so that I could go directly back to that step. And so now I've jumped back in the history to a specific state of the image. Now we're going to get into generative fill. Generative fill is going to be more precise than the remove tool, and you can also tell it things to do. So this is the new machine learning AI capability of Photoshop. I want to zoom in, Command plus plus, and I'm going to hold down the space key to drag this over so we can see the boy. First, we have to select him. I am going to come over here and look under the magic wand tool to find the object selection tool. This is another quick selection tool that also uses machine learning to make its selections. So as you can see, the object selection tool is making selections of what it thinks is a person in this image here. And we'll move it over the boy, but as you can see, it's not quite selecting all of his shadow. So what we can do instead is actually drag the object selection tool around him. So I click and hold the mouse and drag this marquee box around him, and now it's selected. Now that we've made this selection, let's come down here to the contextual taskbar and click on Generative Fill. Then we get this text box where we can enter something that we would like. In this case, we only want it to remove the boy and leave the rest of the scene the same. So we'll just click Generate, and he's gone. Generative Fill also, it gives us options as well. So you can click on each of those to see how you like it. You see where the object selection tool is turning on, but you see where this building's windows are changing, right? All of these have the awning. I'll go with that one. When you have done generative fill, you could see that it's actually added a new layer with that fill on it. And it's a masked layer here above it. So you can see the change that was made, and it's again non-destructive. So now that we've made all of these changes to the image, I'll hit Command 0 again to see the whole thing and make that properties panel smaller. We've straightened it, corrected the color, removed some damage. We want to sharpen it a little bit to make it ready to print. First, let's flatten the image. I'll hold down the Control key and choose Flatten Image. And then I'll go to Filter, Sharpen, Smart Sharpen. And that gives me this options dialog box. We can see that if you click and hold on this image, it'll show you sort of a preview of how much it's sharpening. You can see that change there. And we can click the preview button to see it in the main image window. We'll make sure that we have lens blur selected here as an option. Lens blur is the best choice for general sharpening. Then we'll change the amount of sharpening to 100%. 100%. Change the radius to 3 pixels. The radius value determines the number of pixels surrounding the edge pixels that affect the sharpening. So if an image starts out kind of sharp, then the radius value you would use is about 1. In this image, it's not extremely sharp in the first place, so we're going to use 3. And we like the way that looks. I can drag around in this preview here to see how it's going to look. You can really see it there in the back of the boy's head. The buildings. Let's click OK. That looks nice. Now that we've flattened the image, we want to save it. So I'll choose File, Export, Export As. I have Quick Export as JPEG set up here because that's one that I use frequently. You can set that in the Photoshop preferences or settings file. I'm going to choose Export As in this case so that I can see my file settings. I've chosen JPEG as my file size. I'm going to use the highest quality I can, and I can see it's 2100 by 2100 pixels, which, if you remember, we set the image size at 300. So if we divide 2100 pixels by 300 pixels per inch, we get a 7 by 7 inch image. That's what this image is set up to print as. It can print at other sizes, but that's what it's formatted for. I'll click Export and say Restored Vacation Photo. Save it on my desktop and save. So that's the lesson for today on basic corrections to a photograph in Photoshop. As always, if you have any questions, please contact me at japarker@atlantatech.edu. And I appreciate your attention, and we'll see you online again soon.